Welcome to the BasePath podcast brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. I'm your host, Dan Guttenplan. Today's guest is the coach of one of New England's top D3 college baseball programs, Salve Regina. Coach Eric Cirella's team is currently ranked number 6 in the nation after an 18-3 start. Coach has led Salve to NCAA appearances in 6 of the last 7 seasons, and 4 of those seasons, his team won Commonwealth Coast Conference championships. Coach, thanks so much for joining me on the pod.
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you guys are rolling right now, and I know you have a game today. So congratulations on the great start, and it's not been an anomaly, I guess. You've been kind of trending in this direction for a few years. Last year, you were in the program's first number 1 seed in a regional and set the program record for wins. What do you think's been going well for your program, this year in particular, and then even, over the last few years?
I think it's just it takes time to build it up the right way. Obviously, it starts with good recruiting and having good coaches. So I would be, it would be poor taste if I didn't say that I think I have some of the best assistant coaches around. Coach McKeon's my associate head coach and does a tremendous job with the pitchers. I think we went into yesterday's game with like a 2.42 team ERA, which is elite. I think we do a great job with recruiting, 2 of us, and then I have 3 or 4 other coaches on staff who are back for another year. So whenever you have longevity with assistants, I think that's what you get at any level. Just look at maybe UConn, who's had their head coach and assistant coaches in place for a decade. I mean, they're always super competitive regionally and nationally. One of the best teams in Division I. So I think that's part of it. And then I think the other part of it is just, like I said, me being here for a number of years and getting things in place the right way from the field and facilities and, recruiting and, so on and so forth. It just takes time to build it up. It wasn't like this day one.
Yeah. I always take it for granted. I'm always preparing for the podcast and try to figure out, about the program and the school. And I take it for granted that the audience knows the same thing. Can you tell us about Salve Regina? Like what stands out about the school? What is it from a recruiting perspective? Kind of what are you selling to the players and the student athletes?
Sure. First and foremost, I think it's in one of the best locations in the country in Newport, Rhode Island. The place sells itself. You're on the cliffs of Newport, surrounded by Gilded Age mansions and really the historical district of Newport. So if that isn't enough, we're selling, a great education where you have the ability to take your education in a number of different ways, including, a 5-year MBA, which has really helped us with, those COVID years. And then on top of that, I think we play one of the best schedules in the country. For the last 3 or 4 years, we've been in the top 25 strength of schedule wise. So we're playing outside of conference. We're playing, all the best NESCAC teams, Little East teams, all the top teams that we can play down in Florida, opening up at Catholic University in Washington, D.C. every year. We place our guys in summer collegiate leagues. We had a kid drafted in the 11th round 2 years ago. So I think it's like the ability to compete at a high level, play right away, and, be part of a championship.
And then, Coach, I was reading that you replaced your father as the head coach in 2013. And you had previously spent a year on his staff and as an assistant. You also played for him at Salve Regina. Yeah. What was it like growing up, following baseball with him and kind of learning the game from a college head coach?
It's certainly interesting. He always told me, don't get into coaching. You're not going to make any money. Why would you want to do this? So I probably should have listened to him, but, I think part of it is like I was able to see him wake up every day and not feel like he didn't make it seem like he had to work. He was coaching baseball and that seemed fun. So obviously you learn a lot through his eyes and he he taught me a lot. I think more about the relationship aspect of it than even the game. I think you take for granted, especially as a young coach. You come in here and it's like, I got these 20 drills, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and these are the type of kids I'm going to recruit, and we're going to be really good. And it just doesn't work that way. You need a certain type of kid, and you really have to relate to kids, especially now more so than maybe 20 years ago. And they need to trust you, and you have to build those relationships, and you have to be vulnerable. And so I think that's more so what I learned from him, was the relationship side of it. And that's something I've tried to carry along. And because I learned a lot of baseball at URI for 6 years, and I was there and coaching in the NECBL and coaching in the Northwoods League, and all the great coaches in New England, and guys that I talk to on a weekly basis. So it's there's no patent on coaching and drills. Like, you're learning from everybody. Nobody's style or nobody's drills or nobody's practices are completely their own. I mean, somebody taught them that, and you put your own kind of twist on things.
Yeah. And you mentioned like, trying to form those connections with players that, through the recruiting process. What is that process like for you? Where are you looking for guys? Do you have a camp that you bring guys on campus and have them play in front of you there? Or what's your recruiting strategy like?
I mean, we're trying to find kids who are getting overlooked by Division I schools. So they have obviously ability and talent, but then they haven't reached that ceiling yet. So there's a lot more in the tank, and we can develop that. And we're looking for, I think a lot of times, those kids who get passed up because maybe they're not tall enough, or they're not strong enough, or they don't throw hard enough, or whatever the case is, they didn't play on this premier summer team. They do have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and that's I think a great kid to look for, because they have something to prove, and they never stop working because they've been doubted through the recruiting process. So I think that's initially what we're looking for, but I think it's also different year to year and different for every position. Pitching wise, I think you're looking for guys who throw strikes, and then you want to teach them how to throw harder, and get more elite stuff. And year to year, we might want to be more physical, or we might want to be more athletic, or we might want to steal more bases, or we might want to be more lefty heavy or righty heavy. So you make those adjustments on the fly. But essentially, you're looking for kids who want to compete, and hopefully you can make them more disciplined, and that's going to help them, whether they go on and play at the next level, or they go on to be a state police officer, or a financial manager.
Is it mostly guys from the Rhode Island area or New England?
No, typically it's Rhode Island. We have very few kids from Rhode Island. I think Rhode Island, you get the big fish in the small pond syndrome. So if we really like you, a lot of times you're thinking about these greener pastures or these southern schools or whatnot. I think we do much better in I think three main states would be New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts. But we also have kids from Delaware and New York, Long Island, New Hampshire, Maine. So it's really New England and the metro areas that we do most of our recruiting. But we've gotten kids from Florida before, and certainly have recruited kids from the West Coast and other states. It's just a matter of making it work.
Yeah. And then I wanted to ask about coaching in the NECBL. You did that, I think it was like 2015. You were with the Ocean State Waves.
Yep.
What is that experience like? How does that compare? Because it's such a short, stint of coaching guys, whereas, program building's a lot different at the college level. How is it different for that summer collegiate league, and how did that kind of help with your growth as a coach?
I think it's just you're trying to help make guys better. And I think you want to win, because obviously if we're keeping score, that's the goal. But I'm not losing sleep over it like I would if, we were not winning games in our spring season here. So you can kind of relax a little bit and really have conversations with guys and learn what they're doing at different Division I programs, and what kids' favorite drills are, what their hitting coaches are like, what their head coaches are like, and that's what I really enjoyed and what I learned a lot and took from. And at the end of the day, I think that through those conversations, you kind of realize we're doing a lot of things the right way here. This is good. What we're doing at Salve is exactly what they're trying to do at Southern Miss, or what they're trying to do at Virginia Tech, or what they're trying to do at insert whatever Power Five school here. That is what I found refreshing. It's kind of like going to a convention and hearing all these guys speak, and you pick up some things, but you're also like, we do a lot of that. We do a lot of that. We do a lot of that. We're on the right track. Maybe we just have to enhance it a little bit more in certain aspects.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, right now in New England, I feel like D3 college baseball is, at a peak with Endicott's #1. You guys are, moving up towards the top 5. What do you make of that it's going? So, like, I know Wheaton's had a lot of good years, and, there's been some other programs that have gotten up that high, but to have 2, in the top 6 right now, it feels like a really good time for college baseball at the D3 level in New England. What do you make of that?
I just, I think there's a lot of really good coaches. I think at the Division III level, you have coaches who are forced to do a lot of different things and wear a lot of different hats. And, every school has something that it's selling, and what Endicott's selling is probably a little bit different than what Salve's selling. And then you have Eastern Connecticut, who's coming off a national championship 2 years ago, and they're back in the top 25. And Colby's close, and Wheaton's close, and Roger Williams is close. I mean, there's really a lot of quality programs, and I think it's great for baseball. I think it's great for baseball in New England. I think it's great for kids in high school to come see, Salve play Babson, and Endicott play Roger Williams, and Colby play, I don't know, Middlebury or Wesleyan or somebody like that. And how good Division III baseball is right now is really mind blowing. And the fact that with 20 rounds in the draft, we have a kid drafted, and there's kids who played at Wheaton and played at Endicott and played at Eastern Connecticut who are, stars at UConn right now. And, Graham Jeffries pitched at Salve last year, and he was just A10 pitcher of the week, a week ago for George Washington. So you can develop anywhere. I think you develop by playing. And I think that's what the attraction is to Division III is, look, maybe I am a Division I player in 2 years, but do I want to sit the bench and hope that they don't find someone better than me, or do I want to go play and see how good I can be? Because I can really expose myself to how good I am in these summer leagues.
Yeah, how has the transfer portal impacted Salve and D3 in general? Because like you said, now you can almost use it as a positive, like, hey, there are plenty of guys that are making this jump D3 to D1. I guess there was never, you didn't have to redshirt for a year if you made that jump anyway. Has it changed anything?
No, I mean, look, we get some guys who aren't happy with where they're at. We got a couple D1 pitchers and a D3 kid who was all New England at Mitchell, who's here now. So I think it's helped us. I also I don't want to recruit kids and say, hey, come here for a couple of years and then you can go to a Division I school. This isn't a junior college. I want you to come here and graduate. And I want this to be a 40-year relationship, not a 4-year, rental, and then we don't talk again. But if you get hurt, or, like we had with the pandemic, there's opportunities. And that's what, that's what I want guys to see, is that Andrew Roman was our closer, and then he went to Boston College and he was their closer, and he was one of the best closers in the ACC and helped them, win 30-something games. And Coach Gambino moves on to Penn State. Coach Vance moves on to Arizona. That's a great story. And right next to Andrew Roman is Chris Flynn from Roger Williams. So some of these premier programs in New England have been elevated because of Division III baseball talent.
Yeah, one of the things we're seeing a lot more in terms of baseball discussion I don't know if it's because it's the opening week of the Major League Baseball season and you see guys, all these pitchers going down with these UCL injuries and requiring Tommy John surgery. Do you think that's related to maybe like this travel ball? You know, guys are trying to hit high velocity marks and trying to learn how to pitch, 90 mile an hour fastballs at the high school level, or is it the pitch clock? Like, what do you make of that trend where there's more UCL injuries?
I think it's a trend that's been coming on for a long time. I think it starts with specializing in, one sport or another. And like just not giving your body adequate time to rest. We have a really good track record with our pitchers, knock on wood, because anything can happen, and sometimes these are just freak injuries. But like, if kids are playing baseball all year round, like that's just not healthy. I grew up in an age where you played football in the fall, and you played basketball in the winter, you played baseball in the spring, and you did a mix of things in the summertime, and it just wasn't one thing all the time. And I think that's what growing up with a father who was a coach taught me, is play a lot of sports. And some of those kids are the most competitive, and some of those kids are the most under the radar kids who, aren't playing for the big travel teams. Those are the kids we're trying to identify. But I think there's a lot of different things. You're telling a kid, hey, if you throw 90, now these schools are going to look at you. If you only throw 85, these schools are going to look at you. If you only throw 80, it's going to be these schools that look at you. So they're trying to throw harder, and they're trying to spin the ball more, because TrackMan and Rapsodo and everything else. And like, that's just a combination for, for injuries, and who kids are listening to when they're taking their breaks. Are they even ready to, to throw 80 pitches or 100 pitches when they are? And so I think if you are a pitcher, that's something you need to research with the program you're looking at to go to college to, is what's their track record with guys? What, how many guys have they had that have had Tommy John in the last year, 2 years, 5 years, so on and so forth? Because, that's an entire year you're missing as soon as that, happens.
Netting Professionals is proud to be the official netting partner of the Cape Cod League and the New England Collegiate Baseball League. Netting Professionals is in the sports business of improving athletic programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals designs, fabricates, and installs custom netting, wall padding, windscreen, batting practice equipment, and much more for high schools, colleges, commercial facilities, and stadiums throughout the United States, while providing high-quality products and great service to numerous baseball programs throughout the New England area. To learn more and to speak to a Netting Professionals representative today, visit them at nettingpros.com. Remember, when it comes to netting, it's Netting Professionals.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students can earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Attention coaches, need baseball bat bags that last? Meet No Errors, crafting premium quality bags since 2004, the top choice for durability. Choose from stock bags for quick delivery or our semi-custom program for personalized logos in just 10 to 12 days. For a unique team look, try our full custom program. Let No Errors design your next team bags. Visit noerrors.com. That's no-errors.com for details. No Errors, where durability meets style.
Looking to keep up with all the latest news and information on New England baseball? New England Baseball Journal and BaseballJournal.com are the premier resources for information and inspiration on the New England baseball scene. Have every issue of New England Baseball Journal, the magazine, delivered to your home or office. And don't forget to stay in the game every day with a digital subscription to baseballjournal.com to receive baseball coverage on clubs, college commits, prep and high school, Division 1, 2, and 3 colleges, showcases, rankings, and much more. Get in the game and behind the scenes now by going to baseballjournal.com. Just click on the subscribe button and start the subscription that is right for you today. New England Baseball Journal is a Seamans Media publication. Seamans Media. Inspiring, informative, insightful.
What is the structure for pitchers in your program? Are you suggesting, they take, you would imagine they're probably playing summer collegiate league baseball and then maybe taking some time off in the fall and winter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're one of our top arms, you're probably not throwing in the fall. You're picking up a baseball, but you're not pitching competitively in our inter squads or our fall games or stuff like that. It's really made for the younger guys, the guys who have to throw more innings, and the guys who didn't throw much in the summertime, the freshmen, to acclimate themselves with our system. We could see them as much as possible, but the guys who are throwing for us in the spring and the guys who are going on to the summer and throwing 30, 40, 50, 60 innings are not throwing in the fall. That's just how we do it. And I think there needs to be a couple months of rest before we start building them up. And those guys who are shut down early in the fall, who don't pitch in the fall, are now starting to, they're a little bit ahead of the other guys who pitched in the fall because we need them to be ready to throw those games in February and early March. And then there's a group of guys that are playing catch up. So, you're just putting a different group, and that changes from year to year. We have a pitcher, Braden Clark, who was an all-star in the NECBL last year for North Shore. And, he didn't pitch at all in the fall, but he started to build himself up sooner than the other guys who did pitch in the fall. But when he was a freshman, he pitched in the fall. So it's different for everybody, and it changes over time and what your role is and stuff like that. But that's how we, try to maintain their health and hopefully they're not getting overused. And if they're listening to us, they're typically healthy. But a lot of it's communication too. When something doesn't feel right, you have to trust your body and trust your arm, and then communicate that to somebody. If somebody has pain in an area and they're just saying, heck with it, I'm going to keep going. There's not a whole heck of a lot that we can do, to help them unless they communicate that to us. So, there's a ton of gray area to all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mentioned you played for your dad at Salve Regina, and you had a great career. You had a .447 lifetime batting average, which is 25th in the history of D3 baseball. You had a 50 consecutive stolen bases without being caught. That places you fourth all time, but you still have an NCAA record. From March 29, 2003 to May 20th, 2005, you reached base consecutively in 104 straight games, which is still an NCAA record. What was it like? Were you aware of that you were kind of trending towards an NCAA record? And what was it like to just, have that streak going?
I had no idea. To be 100% honest, so the store behind me is Sports Information. And I think there was a collegiate baseball magazine that came out in 2016 or 17. And on the cover was a kid who had a streak of on base. It was like 90 games or something. And I said to Sports Info, I said, wow, that's a long streak. I said, I led the country in hitting. And I was second in the country in hitting as a junior, and walks, I was like first, second for a couple of years. I said, I wonder what that looked like. So he actually went back and looked, and he said, 104 straight games. So it hadn't been recognized for, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 years since I graduated. But, he saw it and he put it into the NCAA's, and now it's in the record book. But, funny thing is we played Misericordia. They beat us in the regionals last year at their place, and they have a leadoff hitter who's just like he's awesome. He's a really good player. I wish he played for us, but I hate him because he doesn't play for us and he's all over the plate. He gets hit, he walks, he's a really good hitter. And we were looking back and I'm like, this kid is going to break this streak because he's on base all the time. And, you know, we saw a game this year, actually, it was the first time in like 2 years that he didn't get on base. So maybe the record will live on. I don't know. But it just seems like since COVID, you have these like 23, 24, 25-year-olds playing Division III baseball. I don't think any records are safe anymore. But to answer your question, I didn't know what was going on. It was just one of those things that a decade after the fact was kind of funny to find out yet that you actually had that record.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned 24, 25-year-olds playing baseball. Did you play beyond college?
Very short career. I mean, I was hoping to get drafted. We played in the All-Star game at Fenway. There was a bunch of scouts. There was talk like, I was going to take you in the 30th, the 40th, the 50th round. It never happened. I played a little independent ball. You're just like, I don't know. I liked where I was first in the Midwest, and then I was in New Haven, and you're just with guys who it kind of was like, it was almost sad for me because there's a lot of these guys, it was all they had. They didn't graduate from college and they were just holding on for another chance. I just felt like, man, I have a good education and I have opportunities, and my friends are all making money. I really want to kick it in independent ball and try and get signed somewhere. So I didn't stay very long, but it was just enough for me to say, okay, I can play with these guys, but what's next in my life? And at the time I thought I was going to go make $1 million, and clearly that's not the case.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so when did you kind of decide that your calling was coaching? Like you said, your dad always said, don't go into coaching. You're not going to make any money.
Sure. So I was working for a company, and it was kind of related to sports. And long story short is I got laid off. The company went under. And so I got like a month or two to collect unemployment. And while I was doing that, I studied for my GREs and I did really well on my GREs. And URI had a coaching position opening, or volunteered position. So I, interviewed and got that job. And I did so well on my GREs that the communication department, they asked me if I would teach classes in the because, as a volunteer, you're not making anything. And then after year one, I was a second assistant, and just, you're at that point in 2007, 2008. I mean, I think I was making $6,000 through baseball, and then some more through camps and stuff. So being able to make 15 or 20,000 through teaching two classes in the morning before I go to, to practice like that was enough to pay for my master's, and allowed me to coach. And so I stuck it out for 6 years there. And then, when I thought my dad was ready to give it up, I came back here and helped him out for his last year.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you hear the headline stories are like, Coach Gambino leaving BC to go to Penn State, and it looks so almost glamorous, like, oh, they're getting these big time college jobs, but you really do have to love it. You have to, like you said, you're making $6,000 a year. You're doing all kinds of other jobs. You're an assistant for 6 years before you get a head coaching gig. Like, you really have to love the job to do it at this level, don't you?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things you learn when you're hiring assistant coaches, and even if it's just somebody that wants some experience, they want to get their feet wet. Like, I've interviewed guys and they're like, well, I could do it for, can you get me 5,000 more? And I'm just in my head, it's like, man, no, I can't. Like, trust me, you're gonna have plenty of time to go make more money, but you have to find that on your own. Like, you really learn who the hungry people are, and who those guys who grind it out and are able to work 2 or 3 jobs. And that those to me are the great stories, in college baseball. And, like Nick Puccio, who's on Coach Gambino's staff at Penn State, it's a great example of that. I mean, he was coaching junior college baseball in the Midwest, and he's working at Wheaton, making, I don't know, $2,000, giving lessons, and takes over Nichols, and is making, part-time money And now he's, one of the higher paid assistants in, I don't know, the Big Ten or at least the Northeast region. That's like, to me, that's awesome, because how people grinded it out, and how they were trying to make their 2002 Nissan Altima or whatever last for 20 years and got 300,000 miles on it, because you just can't afford to buy another car when you're making $22,500 giving lessons, coaching summer ball, and all that other stuff. So it's those are the guys you root for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Coach, I know we're catching you on a game day, so if you have a couple more minutes, we'll do our three up, three down segment, and then we'll let you get going. Are you up for that?
Sure, sounds great.
Okay, I'm going to introduce you to our producer, David Yaz.
All right, gentlemen, time for 3 up, 3 down. Let's do it.
3 up, 3 down.
3 up, 3 down is where we lob 3 questions to both Dan and our guest. Coach, you are the guest, so you get to go first. Question number 1. What is the most memorable play at the plate that you can recall? So you can answer this meaning something that memorable that happened in Major League Baseball, or perhaps more of a personal memory. Either way, favorite play at the plate.
I'm going to go with Derek Jeter, the flip play against the Oakland A's, just because that's one that stands out for me. And the play at the plate in college, it would have been a 10-minute story. So I'm going with that one.
I'm sorry, I talked over you there, Coach. What was the last part you said?
I just said if I gave you my college memory of the play at the plate, we lost in Curry in the playoffs in 2015, it would take 10 minutes to explain. So that's my short version.
Okay. I'm just reeling over having to relive the Jeter play because it annoys me. But being a Sox fan. But Dan, how about your answer to this question?
The two I'm thinking of, Pete Rose trucking a catcher in the All-Star game.
Poor Ray Fosse.
Yeah, I always see highlights of that one. That's hilarious.
He got injured, didn't he? Didn't he not have the same career after that?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not the same man after that. I would have mentioned. Yeah. Thank God for the Buster Posey rule. Okay, so that's a good one, Dan. All right, Dan, you get to go first on question number 2.
Okay.
I was lucky enough to attend, well, I don't know if lucky is the word, but I did attend opening day at Fenway yesterday. We got lucky not so much with the game, but with the weather. Nevertheless, many, many opening days are played in 40-degree weather and sometimes chilly rain. Does baseball start too early? Can we fix this? Can we just say, I'm talking about Major League Baseball. Can we shorten the season? What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think you can shorten the season. I think everybody was opposed to, like, baseball historians are all opposed to it because they love the 162 games, and there's the records that all kind of tie to that length of a season. But then I think the steroid era kind of wiped out lore of the 162 game season, because all those records kind of went down during that era anyway.
That's true.
So now I think, maybe taking into account all these arm injuries and everything, the season could be shortened to maybe like 140 games or somewhere around there.
Coach, your thoughts?
I'm kind of a traditionalist. I like the 162 games. I don't think that'll ever change. I think you have to schedule northern teams to play in the South, or just play in warmer environments to start.
That may have worked this year. I have these memories of Andy Pettitte pitching in the snow, which he wore with a badge of honor, I guess. But okay, Coach, you can have your 162 games.
You look we opened up in DC in February. Northern team, college baseball's playing in February, middle of February. I think you just have to deal with it. When you're playing in October, it gets cold again.
Right.
That must have been a chilly dugout in February.
It was a chilly dugout last week.
I guess what the coach is saying is suck it up, be an athlete. Okay. Final question for 3 up, 3 down. And Coach, you can go first on this one. Who would you name as the pitcher who you've seen play who was the most, and it could be either in person or on TV, but who was just the most amazing to watch? And I'm not saying the pitcher that assembled the best career or won 20 games multiple times. Just for a single moment, it's like, wow, that guy can throw. That guy blows me away. Your thoughts?
It's a great question. Probably Pedro. I mean, in his prime, it would be him or Maddox. They were just as good as anybody. And Matt, I think the fact that they did it in the steroid era too, what their numbers look like against lineups that were really, juiced up, so to speak, is incredibly impressive. And they did it in kind of two different styles. Pedro would just make you look stupid with three different pitches, and with Maddox, you almost knew what was coming, but you still couldn't hit it.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I had Pedro in my head as well. He wasn't just a flamethrower. He had the best curveball in baseball. He was that, and to your point, there was that one season, I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, his ERA was something like 1.74, and the league ERA was like 4.4 something. Like it was absurd.
It was like Babe Ruthian, back when he played and had more home runs than the rest of the league.
Exactly. Dan, you're not allowed to say Mitch Williams, being the Philly fan. So, what's your thought?
Yeah, it's probably Pedro, but I'll give you another one just because Pedro is kind of the obvious one. I would say in person it was Josh Beckett. Like, I loved watching him on the mat. He just he kind of fell forward, and when he really had his stuff, he was tough to beat, as he proved a couple times in the playoffs, once with the Marlins and once with the Red Sox. Another one now that I love watching is Steven Strider, which he just got hurt, so he's going to miss this year and get Tommy John. But just watching his pitches like on TV, the way that the movement and the velocity, you're just like, wow, he's a guy that could throw multiple no-hitters if he stays healthy.
Yeah, social media now is filled with clips of guys doing the seemingly impossible. Some of these guys can make their pitch break like Bugs Bunny used to do, and it starts going one way and it seemingly reverses direction.
Yeah, it's the pitching ninja on Twitter. If you follow him,
cool.
Yeah, every day he'll post like 3 pitches from the night before that you're like, holy moly, I don't know who's hitting that.
All right,
usually nobody.
Yeah, right.
Well done. You've both successfully navigated 3 up, 3 down, and next time we see you, Coach, peanuts and Cracker Jacks on us. Back to you, Dan, to wrap things up.
Okay, thanks to Coach Eric Cirella from Salve Regina for joining the pod. Rate, review, subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. Thanks to our producer, David Yaz. The BasePath podcast is a Seamans Media production.